Everybody, another version of my rambling meanderings. Just wanted to finish it up on a subject I started on my last video about where there's a will, there's a way. And that's true. If when you come into your fitness or whatever, and you have the will and desire to lose weight, you will, or get stronger, or get fit, or healthy, you will find a way, right? You'll find a way. You won't make excuses about it. You'll either seek advice or you'll find a way to do it. Going back to my journey when I first really started getting serious about it, I'm on a 5'6" frame, right? And I generally go about 185, and that's been my weight for a long time, except for back in the day when I was a graphic designer with a desk job. I would sit behind a desk and I gained a lot of weight, and I was over 200 pounds. And on a 5'6" frame without a lot of muscle, that looks awful, right? I was big, I was tired, bloated, depressed, mentally and physically drained. Never really felt that I'd break out of this, but then you get to a point where you realize you look at a picture of yourself or something. You look in a mirror and you can lie to yourself, right? But when you look at a picture, it's really stark and it shows you where you're at, and you know where you're at. You can't say, well, I didn't realize how bad it was. You don't need a scale to tell you. You can tell by the way you feel, by the way you look, and all of those are telltale signs. So if you really want to break out of that, you have the will and the desire to do it, you will find a way. Well, when I sat at my desk, after this realization, I would find ways to exercise at my desk, right? I would bring, I would get the, the rubber strap downs, and I would have those at the side of my desk. I would use those for exercises. I would run the stairs. I would sneak off to the restroom, and I would actually use the stalls to do push-ups in the doorway of the stalls, and I would do body weight squats. And now this is in a tie and a dress shirt and dress pants. If somebody walked into the room, this was a government building, government office building. So when somebody walked in the restroom, I'd rush over to the sink and pretend I was washing my hands or whatever, and then I'd try to control my breathing because I would be breathing heavy. But there was a desire to do something, and I found a way to get started, right? So that's a start, and from there you grow from it. You don't necessarily, even though I work in a gym, and I love working in a gym. I love the gym environment. I love the mentality of people that come into a gym that are actually seeking to transform themselves. The gym is a great place to have access to equipment that you may not have. But we're talking to the rock man here. I enjoy working outdoors, right? That's where I began my whole journey. It was outside. Inside, whatever I could find, I would find a way to turn it into a workout, whether it was a walk or, it got to the point where my wife would say, every time we do something, I'm picking up a rock or doing push-ups or finding a tree branch to do pull-ups. And so that's all the mentality of where there's a will. If you have the will to do it, you're going to find a way. You don't necessarily need a gym to do it, though a lot of people need that atmosphere to kind of step out of their normal and to put themselves in the mindset. But for me, once I became aware of where I was really at, everything became a gym to me. The world was my gym, right? I didn't need to be in a certain atmosphere. I became my motivation, not the atmosphere. The atmosphere just became my playground. I think if more people were like that, I think that's how our ancestors were. They were more creative in work and getting things done and physical activity, take care of those type of things, because they had to live in it, so they were out there all the time. So with me, it just became a natural extension of who I am, my fitness, my faith. Again, that goes back to not feeling the need to be in a building to do my fitness, and I felt the very same way about my faith. I didn't feel I needed to be in a church to worship God, because after all, He is the creator of the universe. He's not locked in a building. I could worship God wherever I wanted to. I didn't need a priest. I didn't need a worship service. So that extension of those kind of feelings became my extension of feelings for fitness. Why should I contain all of that physical expression and put it inside of a building when I have a huge playground to play in? Everywhere you look, you can do a workout if you're of the right mentality, and if you don't mind freaking out, you're freaking out the locals, as I like to say, the barbarian amongst them. But stairs, you can do so many things on stairs. You run the stairs, you walk the stairs, you can do push-ups on stairs, you can lunge upstairs, you can, and etc. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. And we discussed rocks and all those other things. So all those things become a part of your journey that you can utilize. If you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're stuck at home, or an office job, you can't tell me you can't find ways to turn some of those things into fitness objects. When I first discovered kettlebells, and I didn't have kettlebells, I used a laundry detergent bottle, right? And then when I needed something heavier, I filled it with sand and stone and cement. Now I have heavy kettlebells. I didn't need to go out and invest a lot of money in expensive equipment, though it's nice to have it because they're specifically designed for the task at hand. But if you're creative enough, you can start turning anything into fitness objects. Hammers, I use sledgehammers. I use old dumbbells and make things, homemade equipment. I can't drag everything over here to show you, but you can use walls and doorways for push-ups and just on and on and on. Chairs for step-ups, right? Couches, rubber bands. You could use, I'm trying to think of everything I've ever used. I use tables for chest presses. I have my kids sit on I chest press the table while my kids were sitting on them. Have my kids jump on my back, right? And I would do push-ups that way. I'd roll over and pick them up and do squats and all these different things that you can start doing. And when you engage actively, like I said, and it takes a willful desire to get there, a willful desire to find your fitness, to find your health. And you can get there. You learn how the body works, and then you start utilizing it. Most everything our body does is a push-pull mechanism, right? You're either pushing or you're pushing or pulling, pulling or pushing, on and on. Except for your shoulders and your hip joints, right? You have full range of motion, so there's a lot of room for expression when you start training shoulders and hips. But it's just a matter of learning how your body works. And with so much information out there now, and the availability of YouTube to do some research, and of course use discernment, because there's some people out there that don't know what they're talking about, or they're doing things that can get you hurt. But take a look at the comments, read what people's comments are saying, look at what they're doing, get an understanding of what the way the body moves, and how people, if people are responding positively to it, then there must be something, and there very well could be. I shouldn't say must be, because we can be, what's the word I wanted to use? There's a term, common insanity, where just because everybody agrees that something works, whether it does or doesn't, you believe it works. So the common insanity, So I won't delve into common insanity now. One of these times I will discuss my feelings on common insanity. But, it just takes a willful desire to make a change, and then from there you grow, whether it's whether you decide you enjoy working out outdoors, then you have a free expression to explore and play and express your fitness that way. If you're looking for something more conventional, you go to a gym. Start working out in the gym. Start asking questions of the people that you see that that look fit, seem to know what they're doing. And if you're afraid to do that, hire a trainer. So I've said that before. A trainer is a great resource, but make sure your trainer knows what they're talking about. Watch how they train. Understand what they're doing. See if their personality is going to mesh with yours, etc. The important thing is that they know what they're talking about. They know how to teach it, and they learn to understand you and what you're looking for. Because if they're not meeting your needs, you're not getting what you want out of it. That's, again, I don't know. For me, it just seems so simple, because I love to work out. I love it. I absolutely can't imagine my life without it. And I used to work a full-time job, and I was overweight, but I still found time to make the gym, start getting fit. I would use my lunch breaks. I would make sure I was drinking plenty of water. I'd start eating better. Use my lunch breaks or water breaks, right, to go and do walk the stairs, do the push-ups in the bathroom stalls or doorways, squats. I would find ways to do that. So there's where your journey starts, and then from there you continue. You continue growing on that. If you really desire to do something, a house, inside of a house, a living room, a basement, a garage, there's so many things in space that you can utilize. Your backyard, to achieve fitness, or at least to get started and get a good grasp and a good momentum forward. You don't need to have the shiny object syndrome. Don't fall for all this scam things that they sell on TV. I don't know. There's so many of them. The only one I ever really found really effective was the ab wheel. What a great piece of equipment. Ab wheel is one of those sold on TV gimmicks that wasn't a gimmick. There's so many other ones that are just BS. But even if you buy the gimmick, you have to find a way to use it. And if you're not going to use it, it just becomes another shiny object you acquired because in your mind you said, yeah, maybe I should start doing something. But you never committed to it. You never really put it in here. You never really had the will to do it. You had a passing fancy of, well, summertime's here, maybe I should get into shape, or I'm not feeling good, maybe I should do something. But all these things, you realize how important. You don't realize how important your health is until you're sick, or until you see a friend get sick, or until you see a friend struggling with physical ailments or disease. And then you realize how important health is, and how your first wealth is your health, and without that, any other wealth means nothing, because all the money in the world is not going to buy you your health back. And, you can do all the therapies, all the chemotherapies and the medications, and use all the technology, but it's not necessarily going to be your lifesaver. It may, but money can't buy you your health. You and your will and your knowledge that you learn or find a way to utilize, right? You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if it's not something that you're actually actively taking steps to do, it does you no good. And then when you realize, I'm sick, now I have to scramble to figure out how to get healthy again. It's much easier to prevent something from happening than it is to fight it after you've got the diagnosis of, hey, you need to make some changes or you're going to die. It's so much easier to prevent it, but we don't look at life that way. Why? Because our medical doctors, our medical system doesn't look at it that way. If you have something, we can give you a drug. If you have something, we can give you a surgery. If you have something, we can throw some technology in there and do something, or at least keep an eye on it. But it's not going to take you back to where you were before you were sick. And that's where prevention comes in. And I wanted to share something. I've been reading this book, and I read this book before, and I'm reading it again. It's called Why Our Health Matters by Dr. Andrew Weil, MD. And there was something eye-opening, and the whole book is worth reading, but I wanted to read one thing that I thought most people may not be aware of. It's called The 3 Major Myths of the American Healthcare, and I'm going to read the whole thing here. He says, as a first step, I would ask you to question a few powerful myths that support the massive enterprise of disease management that must be replaced. Myth number 1: because America has the most expensive health care in the world, it must have the best. Reality: the World Health Organization recently rated America. Recently, this book I believe I picked up in 2007, so that's it's within recent. I'm sure there's been more recent studies done. Rated America 37th in health outcomes, on par with Serbia. Now, from my knowledge, I don't believe our healthcare system's gotten any better. I believe it's gotten worse, if not is staying the same. So we're still in that same boat. Myth number 2: our medical technology is our greatest single asset. Reality: We have powerful technology, but we misuse it and overuse it, driving up costs and worsening health outcomes. So right there is a statement that kind of makes you take a look back. Sure, we have all this great technology, but what good is it if it's overused, misused, or if it's being used after the fact, after you have the disease? Now you have to try and scramble to make change in your life when you could have avoided it in the first place. Myth number 3, our medical schools and research facilities excel at creating the world's finest physicians and most productive medical investigators. Reality, our medical and scientific infrastructure is extensive, but it is controlled by an almost fundamentalist orthodoxy that limits our ability to understand and promote health and to prevent disease. Medical education today omits whole subject areas of great relevance to those ends, including nutrition, mind-body interactions, and environmental effects on health. We train researchers to think simplistically and focus narrowly on single interventions directed at the physical body, especially pharmaceutical drugs. The manufacturers of those drugs strongly influence researchers, practitioners, and the journals that report research results. So there's a problem there. If the people that are making the most money off of these studies and directing the way our healthcare works, they're not looking out for people's best interests. They're looking out for their business best interests. Whether that's the production of new pharmaceutical drugs that can treat newly created diseases that they just happen to have the answer for, or technology that once the hospital buys it, they're going to use it to get their money's worth out of it, right? But that doesn't benefit you as a patient, because medical costs are crazy. Why do you think insurance is so insane? Why do you think medical costs is just crazy? It's because we rely so much on this technology and on medications and doctors' opinions. And these doctors aren't always, and I'm not saying all doctors, there are some very highly educated doctors on nutrition and preventative care, but there's also an awful lot of doctors that have no idea, and they just tell the line, the fundamental orthodoxy of medicine, right? And that's not good for us. That's not good for us as the American people. It's not good for us as the patients. And it's definitely not good for our pocketbook, because we're going to pay out one way or another. So that to me is a huge issue. And then you go into the next step. So we have that, then we have a tainted food chain, which I've discussed before. So this tainted food chain, which does not give us the nutrients that we need anymore. It's so synthetic and processed that it becomes this chemical concoction, another pharmaceutical experiment on us. And then we need to supplement, right? So we need to supplement, but what's our go-to supplement? A multivitamin, and then all of the other synthetic vitamins that you can buy off a store shelf. Well, the majority of the companies that produce these synthetic vitamins are subsidiaries of pharmaceutical companies. And they know that these synthetic vitamins are not going to help you absorb the nutrition you need, because they're synthetic. So your body's not going to react to them as if they were from a natural source. So with that being said, they're pulling pieces of something natural, making a synthetic out of it, and saying this is going to benefit you the same way as the natural, the way that God created these things to interact with our body. We know more now. There's been so much research on natural foods, and foods that are enzymatically alive and bioavailable, foods that our body recognizes. Back in the past we could say, well, if they ate better back in the paleo days, they didn't have the same knowledge we have about our foods now, and they didn't have the same access to all the foods that we have access to now. I am a distributor for a nutraceutical company. It's a network marketing company. It's an MLM. All the bad names that people have for those. I've been with this company for a long time, and I've done the research on the products that I distribute, and I know they work. There's a plant called moringa. Do your research on it. The most nutritionally dense plant found on the planet, and I happen to have available to distribute to people this amazing plant supplement. Still enzymatically alive, still bioavailable, very effective for the people that use it. I use it for my clients, I use it for my family, my children, my wife, myself, my friends that decide to take that jump into health and nutrition. It's effective. I wouldn't still be with this company after 7 years if I didn't stand behind the product. I've seen it, and of course you can't say that anything natural prevents, mitigates, diagnoses, etc., any disease or other complication. But I can tell you that there's an awful lot of amazing side effects to having proper nutrition in your body. What it does for you, how your body responds when it has real, honest-to-goodness nutrition that's still enzymatically alive. Those enzymes are important because it's the enzymes that interact with your body and help distribute your nutrition where it should go and how it affects your body. It's not going to get stored in your fat cells to protect your body from the synthetics or the damaging aspects of some of the foods or supplements we take. So there's that. So I stand behind it. The company I work for is called Zija International. I've been distributing for them, like I said, for 7 years, my wife and I. And we're very happy with the results that we've received and that I've seen my clients receive from using these supplements. So, am I unbiased on it? No, I'm biased. There are other very good supplements out there that are natural. You just got to do your research on it. They're out there, but I stand firmly behind the one that I'm working with because I've seen the results of it. I've seen how it helps people. I've watched people get off medications. I've watched people regain their health and their energy and their vibrancy and get back into the game because now they have the proper fuel to fuel their desire, their will to get healthy again. So there's that. If anybody's interested in learning more about that, please feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. And if you're interested in the business opportunity, I'm happy to discuss that as well. So on to my next thing. Let's talk about man caves. Society has groomed men to act like overgrown boys. It's been an attack on maleness, on testosterone, on manly characteristics for a long time, and now it's going the other end where men are being told, or our children are being told that a man is the same as a female, only we have a penis, right? We're supposed to have the reactions and all the same feelings of a female. Not that a man or a manly man can't be nurturing and loving. I was a single dad for a long time, and I raised my kids. Doesn't mean that you can't be sympathetic and loving and nurturing and all that, but we have manly characteristics and manly traits, and so this translates into what we call our man caves now. But I want you to tell me, what do most men have as a man cave? You have a room with a TV, with your video game system, because video games are so manly, a TV, because watching TV and sitting down is so... And don't get me wrong, I enjoy video games, I enjoy watching TV, but my man cave is a place where I come to express my maleness, my strength. It's my gym, it's my garage, this my domain. This is my man cave. Do I have TVs and video games in here? No. Do I drink beer in here? Do I eat junk food that's going to make me not manly? All these foods that we eat, again, disrupt hormones and create hormonal imbalances. And for men, that is not a good thing. The feminizing of the American male, it's so true. It's out there, and you can just look around. And I've talked about how our food disrupts our hormones. And if you look around at boys now, and then being reinforced by, everybody's special, so Johnny's a little feminine. And maybe Johnny is a little feminine. That's fine, but that doesn't mean he's wants to be a female. He's just a boy. I know when I was a boy, I used to like playing dress up and putting on mommy's makeup and stuff. But I never once thought of myself as a girl. And if I would have had a teacher encourage me in that way, or society encouraged me in that way, it would have really messed with my head. And just like I think society is starting to mess with our boys and our girls' heads now, I think it's gone too far, way too far. Before it was just talking about, before we were just saying that a man is basically a grown-up boy. So sex machines. Play, be a boy as long as you can. And that image has carried over, and now it's gone to the other end. But a man is a man for a reason. A man is supposed to have manly traits. A man is supposed to be strong. And whether it's physically strong or morally strong or intellectually strong, a man is supposed to be strong in some aspect. And we're supposed to be the bastion, the first line of defense for our families, right? For our wives, for our sons. Teaching them manly traits to grow up to be men, to do manly things, to understand what it is to be a man. We're also the first line of defense for our daughters, for their virtue, to teach them what a man is supposed to be like. Not a grown boy, but a man that's going to grow up and protect them and love them and express his desire to be with that woman, but also to financially be able to take care of your family, to go out and do the things that a man's supposed to do, that a woman knows that she can rely on her man to be that man to protect, to provide. And not that all families need a man to provide for them. There are families out there where the woman makes more money. That's fine. But the man, that doesn't mean that the man has to put on a skirt and become the female. He should still have manly characteristics and instill that in his family and his sons and his daughters. I could go on stories about how with my daughter when she started dating and how I would greet her potential boyfriends, and she didn't always appreciate it, and I know I'm not naive enough to think that she brought every boy home for me to meet because she didn't want to go through the rigmarole. But I still believe that by taking those steps, certain steps, it shows your daughter that you love her, that you care, and that you're willing to protect her, whether she seems to like it at that time or not. So, as in the right time, spiritual leaders, that gets into our faith, we are supposed to set a moral standard for our family. But and it's important, even though society gets down on that and immediately wants to crush that out, the spirituality, believing in God, believing in the Creator, believing in the order that God set for us as man, woman, family, husband, wife, etc. But going back to my daughter, when she would bring a boy home, I would meet that boy, right? And they would come in and I would shake their hand and I would say their name and say, "It's very nice to meet you." I would ask him a question. I learned this from my pastor friend, Jim Cortina, out in Rochester, and it was really effective. And my daughter hated it, but it didn't stop her from bringing boys home for me to meet. And I would shake their hand, and I would say, "Hi, how are you, so-and-so?" And they would say, "Fine, Mr. Johnson, how are you?" Or whatever. Someone would just kind of look at me like, "Oh, who's this crazy old guy?" Then I would look at them square in the eye and squeeze their hand, and let me step back, and I would shake their hand, and I would say, "Are your intentions with my daughter honorable?" And they would look at me either with confusion, not understanding what I'm saying, or whatever. So then I would reinforce the statement because I would squeeze their hand much harder, and I would say, "Are your intentions with my daughter honorable? Because if they're not, you cannot run far enough or fast enough to get away from me. She is my daughter, and I love her. And I expect her to return back home to me in the same condition she was when she left." And then I'd give them the riot act. If there's anything that goes wrong, etc., etc., she better return not drunk, not harmed, and not violated. Okay? So whether all those things happen or not, I don't know, but it still sets, there's things that go on that a parent never knows about, and you find out years later. But at least there's a standard set, and that boy knows if he steps out of line and I find out, he's in trouble. His parents are going to find out. He's going to have to deal with me. So I would do this even with just friends, and sometimes I would scare them away. She would get upset with me and say, "What did you say to them? You scared the hell out of them." But my duty as a father was to protect her and set a standard that I expected these boys to treat her with the respect that my daughter deserved. And every man should do that for their daughter. Every single man. And if you're not doing that with your daughter, if you're not setting a standard of how the boy is going to treat your daughter and how you expect your daughter to act when she's with that boy, then you're doing yourself and your daughter a grave disservice. And also it sets a standard for your son. He sees how you act as a man and how you protect your family, how you carry yourself, whether you worship God or not, what your belief systems are. All those things, they're so core value of America, of manhood, that we don't teach our kids anymore. We don't have a rite of passage anymore like we used to, like different societies. And I know some of them are just crazy, but the purpose of it at some point was to teach a boy or tell a boy, you are now a man. You're no longer a boy. It's time to act like a man. But how many men do we see that still act like boys into their 20s, 30s, 40s? For me, I did have a dad that taught me hunting and fishing and respect and all those things. But I also rebelled against all that stuff. And I didn't really accept true manhood, I would say, until my mid-30s. There was a shift where, maybe late 20s, early to mid-30s, I started realizing there's certain characteristics that a man should be doing. It shouldn't be all about partying and all these other things that a boy does, right? There's a point where you have to become a man and act like a man, carry yourself like a man, and do things that a man would do. For each man it's different. Again, there's no perfect set standard, but there should be a time where a boy knows that he's working towards something to become a man. He's not working to be a grown-up, Never Neverland, where you stay a boy the rest of your life and you party and play and do this and this and never accept responsibility. At some point, you have to sit back and become a man and do the things a man is supposed to do. Provide, support, whether it's your own family, starting your own family, or your neighborhood, your society. Just something you're supposed to start taking care of your mom, your dad, your family, your manly things that a man is supposed to do to show that he's passed from boyhood to manhood. Let kids be kids. Let the boys be boys while they're boys, but you teach them as they go different characteristics, different aspects, that as you get older, all right, this is expected of you now. This is expected of you now. Here's some more responsibility. And so that they start to grow into this thing called manhood. It's time that America takes back the male, the female. And we each have our differences, and we should respect each of those differences. And not every man is going to be this box of this is what a man is, and you're trapped in this cube. There's so many different expressions of manhood, so many different expressions of womanhood, and we should respect all of those things. But when things start to cross and mesh into this genderless society that we seem to be moving towards, is insane. We're men and women for a reason. We're made different for a reason, and we should appreciate and respect those differences, and celebrate those differences. Not try to mesh it all and say there's no man, there's no woman, there's just human. So that's off track again completely, and I knew I would once I got on the subject. But back to man caves. Man caves can be a place where you do things that make you manly, right? I exercise. I read books. I read books that educate myself, that help me understand the world around me. It's a place for a man to learn to be a man. Whether it's with your church family, if your men's group, that can be a man's cave, right? Iron sharpens iron. These men's groups that are out there to help men support men, and then they have women's groups that help women support women. Those are all things are important. So a man cave should not be a party place where you get to express your boyhood more. It should be a place where you express manly traits and characteristics, and of course burp and fart and make jokes that's what men do. It's frowned upon in public society, but when you're in your group of men, be a man. Not sure how far off I got from where I wanted to say and what I wanted to say, but just I hope these thoughts and my thoughts and words are touching somebody, whether it's making you angry, upset, frustrated, or if it's opening your eyes, or if you're in agreement with it. I appreciate when people post and share their thoughts or about what I'm saying or whatever. So with that, I'm going to go because I've got manly stuff to take care of, like finishing my lawn and taking out the garbage, the mundane things that a man does to help his family move forward day to day. Anyways, God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Back to the grind on Monday. For most people, it's Monday. It's a horrible day. For Rockman, it's deadlift day, and it's an awesome day. So maybe you should choose something for your Monday and rename it so that it becomes something you look forward to. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your week. God bless.